This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
Just ahead on Carolina Impact, we learn about a program using baseball to teach life lessons. Plus, who's checking to ensure the bridges you're driving over are safe? A closer look at these high-demand careers. And
they're not heroes, just everyday soldiers with stories to tell. I'm Jeff Sonia. We'll share those stories coming up on this week's Vietnam and the Carolinas report.
Don't go anywhere. Carolina Impact starts right now.
Carolina Impact, covering the issues, people, and places that impact you. This is Carolina Impact.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. One of America's favorite pastimes is making a difference in the lives of teenagers. But for these coaches, it's not about helping them get to the major leagues of baseball, but more about preparing them for a better life. Carolina Impact's Tanisha Johnson spent time with the Carolina Metro baseball team and has this story.
Almost every kid in America who's ever played baseball dreams of making it to the major leagues and winning a championship. And it's no different for this Carolina Reds team of Charlotte.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to Hickory Ridge High School in the championship game of the summer 2017 Metro season.
Yeah! It's a good feeling every year, or anytime we get an opportunity to get back to the championship game.
But the players know this isn't just about dominating 7 innings and snagging a piece of hardware for the night.
Yeah! That's what it's aggressive.
Instead, it's about winning the game of life. And in order to win, sometimes you have to lose a few to make great gains, including
it's the attitude. Sometimes it could get to me. I had to work on keeping my temper if I strike out or something, or if I walk somebody, or if I drop a ball or something, to keep my composure.
For first-year player Rashad Frazier, he's building his character by learning how to shed his attitude and control his temper. Encouragement and mentoring from his coaches helps him understand how it carries over from the field to life.
It all starts on the way you carry yourself, how do you handle yourself. It basically starts off that morning when you wake up.
His grandmother cheers from the sidelines. She's single-handedly raised him and couldn't be more pleased.
I'm very proud of Rashad because there's so many you could see he could have turned and went left, but I thank God he stayed on the straight and narrow way.
Former Detroit Tigers pitcher Morris Madden now coaches the Carolina Reds along with Shelton Grant. The team is a part of a nonprofit called Carolina Metro Reds Baseball, and their goal is to offer players a solid foundation that reaches beyond the game.
We're not here to make baseball players, we're here to make men.
Here, baseball is a tool to get them there. They start by targeting young inner-city kids.
Those are the kids that we focus on, the kids that are running around with no guidance, the kids that come from single-parent homes, the kids that are wanting to play but have aspiration to play but can't afford to play.
And once the kids join the team,
we talk to the kids, offhand, talk to them on the side to find out where they are, what they want to do, what kind of emotions they have, what gets them tightened up, try to find out their demeanor. And that way, from there, we can figure out how we need to coach them.
They also challenge them to become responsible adults and to have a plan B when plan A doesn't work out.
The one thing that we like these guys to recognize is that sports is not forever. And whether you decide to go for your school, whether you decide to get a job, whether you decide to continue to play baseball, even that needs to have a business aspect to it.
While they've helped to keep some kids from totally striking out,
there was one kid we had to write a letter for because he was involved in a robbery. Another kid that got involved in some other trouble we had to go to court for, but I think they all learned from it, and they learned the consequences of what could have been, if you hadn't been involved with us.
Their approach to using baseball to reach kids appears to be working. 17-year-old Brandon Reed now realizes
You can't be perfect at baseball, and you gotta learn how to stay humble, be confident. You gotta hold your head up all the time, regardless of what happens.
And if he can't make it to the major leagues, Reed wants to go to college and become a restaurant entrepreneur.
Our wins don't come if someone gets a college baseball uniform. Our wins come when we get them into college and they have an idea of what they want to do with their lives.
Remember Rashad Frazier? He got involved with the Carolina Reds a year ago. Today, he's a freshman at Claflin University and hopes to have a glove in hand soon. Until then, he and his teammates know that with championship games like this, even when they come up short in the final inning, never give up. Instead, focus on making the necessary plays to win the next time, both on and off the field.
Tanisha joins me now, and it's pretty impressive to see what impact this program is having on these students. Tell me a little bit, take us on the other side. What were these teenagers really like?
These kids were really, really amazing to me. Honestly, not just on the field, but even their heart and the passion that they have for the game, their love for the game, and then really just their love for what they want to do in life after that. Sometimes you talk to kids and you wonder, okay, what are your aspirations? What are your dreams? But they really do have some goals that are just, sometimes you wonder, oh my gosh, okay, well, can you really do it? And yes, they believe that they can. And so for them, it's about working their passion, working their purpose, and working whatever it is that they really want to do in life, and their coaches are helping them to do that.
So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about those coaches. They seem like some pretty special gentlemen filling a void for a lack of many of them having their own fathers.
They really are filling a huge void. 70 to 80% of those kids are living in single parent homes where their fathers are just not present. And so not only are they serving as father figures, but they are serving as mentors, serving as coaches. These coaches really are wearing many, many hats, but they enjoy doing what they're doing. And so that's the cool part about it.
Before we run out of time, let's talk about next steps for these students. Baseball isn't the end goal for most of them.
And as you would have heard in the story, we always talk to students, and coaches encourage students about having a plan B, making sure that that is just not, you having all of your eggs in one basket, if you will. And so most of them are wanting to pursue college. Most of them, if it's not college, then they're wanting to start their own business. One of the coaches said, I think it's important that even if you are going to college and you're pursuing a specific career, you should still have a business plan attached to that so that you can do something else. Even if you succeed in one area, you can still go another direction.
Life lessons of love and future goals, priceless. Thank you so much for bringing us this story, Tanisha. It's awesome.
Thank you.
According to the North Carolina Department of Transportation, more than 1,700, or about 13% of the bridges across North Carolina, are considered structurally deficient. Now, the state considers them safe, but they're in poor condition and will likely need to be replaced. But have you ever wondered who examines our bridges? Well, it's an expert trained in what's called Nondestructive Examination, or NDE, and it doesn't require a four-year degree. As Carolina Impact's Jason Terzes reports, it's a high-demand career that offers great income potential.
America's national highway system, a network of more than 160,000 miles of roads and nearly 56,000 bridges. But it's a system that's aging and quickly decaying. More than 25% of bridges in the United States are at least 50 years old, structurally deficient, and in dire need of major reconstruction or replacement. It's gotten so bad some people poke fun at it, but it's no laughing matter.
We protect people's lives. We make sure airplanes are safe. We make sure nuclear plants are safe. We make sure bridges and construction are safe.
Always striving to be the leader in workforce development, Central Piedmont Community College is doing its part to help America's aging infrastructure. The Nondestructive Examination program, which launched in 2007 with one classroom and 4 students, today occupies a 7,000 square foot facility at CPCC's Harper campus. Students work towards an associate's degree in nondestructive examination, which tests the inside of a material, component, or system without causing damage.
We have to make sure our planes don't fall out of the sky, our bridges don't collapse, our pipelines don't rupture.
At CPCC, students learn from instructors who've had years of experience in the industry. Rand Ernst worked in aviation, paper mills, and nuclear plants, and spent 9 years at the Kennedy Space Station working on the Space Shuttle program.
So I've got to sit in, on the left seat of all those shuttles and go vroom vroom. It's kind of cool.
Rodney Stevens is in his first semester teaching at Central Piedmont after spending 30 years in construction as a business owner and in non-destructive testing.
One week I could be looking at corrosion mapping on a pipeline up in Prudhoe Bay in the North Slope of Alaska. And a couple of weeks later, I might be in Los Angeles looking at the reentry heat shield on the prototype for the next manned spacecraft.
And John Berg spent 30 years in the electronics industry, doing circuit board manufacturing. But in 2008, when the economy went south, he lost his job. That's when he signed up for classes at CPCC.
The state offered me unemployment if I retrained, retooled. So I said, that's a no-brainer.
John earned his NDE certificate in 2010 and was then approached by college administrators.
So they said, hey, would you like to work with us, help our students, maintain our equipment? I said, sounds great to me.
Together, the instructors teach students the 6 different methods of non-destructive examination testing. Visual inspection, ultrasonic, which uses sound waves to detect internal flaws, eddy current, which uses electromagnetic currents, liquid penetrant, which helps locate surface defects, magnetic particle, which is a magnetic dust that gravitates towards flaws, and radiography, which is basically an X-ray.
We actually have a little defect that's in this particular weld. The radiograph will show that, and we can actually bring it right down so you can see right where that defect is.
We provide the classroom training that's prescribed by ASNT, the American Society of Non-Destructive Testing.
Enrolled students come from a wide array of backgrounds. Larry Joseph served 4 years in the U.S. Army. He then took a job working security, but found it boring. So he's now working towards his associate's degree in NDE.
Didn't really want to sit in a cubicle or anything like that and just be stagnant, and also this kind of relates to the military because you have to really pay attention to your measurements and look and be very attentive to detail.
Fellow NDE student Zachary Bays is also a veteran, having served in the U.S. Navy. He's already earned an associate's in welding and is working for a NASCAR Xfinity racing team.
I install the seats, I do a lot of the finished fab work and a lot of the welding there. So I can take what I learned in the welding and transfer it over into NDE, so when I do a weld on the chassis of the car, I can look at it and be like, okay, is that a good weld, is that a safe weld, and be able to understand better what I'm looking at for the quality of my welds.
The NDE program was approved by the Naval Shipyard in Norfolk, Virginia as a center of excellence. So far, they've hired 3 CPCC graduates and are coming back for more.
The people that do have our students and that do hire our graduates usually will come back. They're repeat customers saying, oh, these guys know what they're doing.
The best part for students is knowing that a job in the industry likely awaits them. The college has a 90% placement rate.
What's happening is there's an awful lot of guys that are my age that are now retiring, getting out of the business, and no one's ever heard of non-destructive testing. So we don't have any young kids getting into it. There's a real shortage of people out there. People are screaming for graduates right now, trained graduates.
Most graduates who enter the industry typically start out between $17 and $22 an hour, and that's with no experience. Those who gain experience in the field and become a level 2 technician typically earn $25 to $30 an hour.
Depending on what you do, you can actually get a level 3 after like 5 years of experience, and you're kind of a supervisor, and it's not common to make $90,000, $100,000 a year.
Between America's aging infrastructure and aging workforce in non-destructive examination, there's a void that needs to be filled. Trained workers are desperately needed. NDE is a job and career of the present and of the future. For Carolina Impact, I'm Jason Terzis reporting.
Thanks so much, Jason. If you didn't know, CPCC holds the license to PBS Charlotte. Well, you can learn more about the NDE program on our website at pbscharlotte.org. Well, you may have recently seen Ken Burns' latest epic, The Vietnam War. It's drawn the highest audience ratings PBS has ever seen. And we're proud to tell local stories in our companion program called Vietnam in the Carolinas. Jeff Saunier takes us to Mooresville for tonight's report.
Yeah, most of the Vietnam veterans we know today, they weren't war heroes like you read about in the history books, just everyday soldiers who had a very dangerous job to do. And that's why we say thank you for your service when we see them out here on the street or at the airport or a restaurant. It's just a token of appreciation. And the Vietnam veterans, well, they appreciate it too, especially since they didn't get a lot of thank yous when they came home. Every Thursday morning at this coffee shop in Mooresville.
You know, when you sit back and you look what we did and how we survived,
you'll find the Vietnam survivors.
Sweeping the road, and we set up in the jungle alongside of it.
Richard Graves, Air Force.
The Vietnam came back alivers.
And we barely got this thing perimeter surrounded, and all of a sudden these little kids are coming in.
More than 100 veterans sharing their Vietnam War stories over fresh eggs and hot coffee.
The only time we saw hot meals when a chopper came out and landed with thermal jugs, and that was our hot meal for the day, and that was once a month.
This Thursday morning meeting, you're aware, I'm sure it's pretty famous.
Famous? Maybe, but it's just their way of keeping those memories alive.
I was in the Transportation Corps, Vietnam, 68, 69.
And coping with those memories too. Memories of what they did in Vietnam and what they saw in Vietnam.
Charlie was trying to hit us. Mortar blew up in front of us. We hit the crater hole as the dirt was still coming down. We saw a lot get killed in the bush and a lot of wounded.
It's known that this is a place of healing.
Yeah, Richard's Coffee Shop is a healing place. It's a special place for the veterans who come here, a special place because of the veterans who come here. But what about all those war stories, those everyday stories of all those Charlotte area Vietnam vets who haven't come here, the ones who will never come here? Like the 9 names on this Vietnam monument in the town of Dallas. Or the 18 who died in Vietnam, all from Garinger High School. In Charlotte, the Mecklenburg Vietnam Veterans Memorial has more than 100 names etched in granite, columns of names arranged year by year until you get to 1972.
This is the end.
Where you'll find only one name, Richard Bryan Lineberry.
This is the end.
He's the last name on the Mecklenburg Vietnam Memorial. The last Charlotte serviceman to die in Vietnam.
I met Richard in the summer of 1966. Both North Carolina boys. He was from Charlotte and went to Harding High School, and I was from Hickory.
From his back porch overlooking Lake Wylie, Dick Havner remembers his friend and fellow combat pilot, Richard Lineberry.
He was a sophomore at North Carolina, and I was a sophomore at Appalachian, and we got into a program in the Navy that would take us down to Pensacola for 6 weeks.
While you are here, you will do exactly what you are told.
6 weeks of tough training for Havner and Lineberry, plus a little fun on the side.
And so we went to the famous honky tonk in Pensacola, which every Navy pilot will know about, and go to the door, and we all had to show IDs, but Lineberry was only 20. They wouldn't let him in.
6 years later, both were flying jets off carriers in Vietnam when Havner and Lineberry met up again, this time on leave in the Philippines.
So I was at the QB Point, that's the air station there, Officers Club, and sure enough, there was Richard Lineberry in there. And so we had a couple beers together and talked about what he was doing.
Mission accomplished and homeward bound.
And Richard, I was quite impressed because he was flying F-8 Crusaders, which was the last of the gunfighters. And he chose F-8s on the West Coast, which meant that he would be going to Vietnam, which I'm sure he wanted to do.
Havner remembers that was in August of '72, a month before Richard Lineberry flew his F-8 for the final time.
The operating procedures for the F-8U-1 and the emergency procedures for all.
When Lineberry's parachute didn't work after his plane caught fire on takeoff at Da Nang Air Base.
And I think I knew probably 30 guys in that period of time from August of '72 through the end of December '72 that were killed in action.
How many missions you fly in?
Had over probably about 120, 130.
In his den, Havner shows us fragments from a plane crash that killed another friend in Vietnam, and the helmet Havner wore the night he was almost shot down. There are pilot logbooks and other mementos from the old days, but no news clippings.
None of the ships sent out information on the pilots. They were not even allowed to send pictures of us back to our hometown newspapers saying what we had done or the awards that we were getting over there.
Which is another reason why Dick Havner says he won't let others forget about Richard Lineberg.
Always wondered what could have been with him.
It's why the Vietnam vets in this coffee shop also keep their own memories alive.
That's why it's all brotherhood.
And it's why we're telling these stories of Vietnam in the Carolinas. And while Richard's Coffee Shop is a popular spot for Vietnam veterans all over the country, not just here in the Charlotte area, you don't have to be a veteran to stop in and say thank you for your service. Amy?
Thanks, Jeff. To see more on our reports on Vietnam and the Carolinas, go to our website at pbscharlotte.org, and you'll find our entire local documentary there. Well, from bluegrass and R&B to country and gospel, recently 7 artists were inducted into the North Carolina Hall of Fame, including Richard Lewis Spencer, Etta Baker, Anthony Hamilton, Bucky Covington, Steep Canyon Rangers, Jim Lauderdale, and the Sensational Nightingales. In tonight's 110 trip, producer Russ Hunsinger takes us to Kannapolis to learn more about it.
They recognize the music, but they don't recognize where they're from. Usually the reaction that we get from visitors when they come in is, I had no idea that this artist was from this state.
The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal.
Charlie Daniels.
Baby, I'm gonna love you forever.
Randy Travis.
Sweet darling, there ain't no getting over me.
Ronnie Millsap. We have the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame to preserve, promote, and commemorate all of these legends that are from the state.
The Winstons was a very tight group, right? So we all had played in different groups. When we came together, we had a certain chemistry. We were very tight.
Said I'm gonna color him father.
But it was a great feeling playing with the Winstons for sure.
Woke up this morning, found a letter that she wrote.
I'm native from Charlotte, North Carolina, born and raised here. Music has been the one thing that's been consistent to me. It's my first love. This is the shoes that go with this suit that I wore to the White House, my very first time.
Hey, it's the right time.
First album came out coming from where I'm from. Nominated for 4 Grammys and sold 1.4 million.
There's actually 2 parts to our criteria as to who we induct here. And those 2 parts are they have to be from North Carolina, either born here or spend a significant amount of time here. And then they have to have at least 10 years in the national music industry.
I was in the commercial music industry, nationally and internationally, for over 65 years. I worked with a lot of different artists in different capacities.
So darling, stand by me.
I can't believe the great internationally known artists in every genre of music. It's in bluegrass, it's in country, it's in gospel, R&B, unbelievable.
When a visitor comes here, they're going to see different pieces of memorabilia that we collect from each one of the artists.
This is the hat for my first video coming from where I'm from.
That ranges from clothing to albums, signed pieces, handwritten lyrics, anything that means something to the artist. And a lot of times we try to get pieces that represents their connection here to North Carolina. One really good example of that is Kelly Pickler's Sonic uniform.
My name's Kelly Pickler.
And while she was doing her American Idol competitions, she worked at Sonic, and that meant a lot to her, so she gave us the outfit for exhibit.
In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina.
On the map wall that we have, this represents every city that each one of our inductees are from.
I think it will definitely open the eyes to the music culture here and how much there is and how much there is to offer.
You know, I always thought of them being from way off, but you know, they're right here in my home state.
In jazz, you got people like Coltrane and Monk and some of the biggest names in jazz, and of course the same thing in bluegrass, same thing in country music, and the same thing in gospel music.
It's history, and if you don't keep up on history, the next generation will never know.
Grab your bag and grab your coat.
I think it touches people like nothing else can. It brings out our emotions, all kinds of emotions.
It is a common language, and it speaks to the soul, and no matter what your preference, your religious background, your race, we all can be connected by this one song, which can change your mind about a whole lot. And there's nothing you can do about it, because it's just that powerful.
If people get a chance to hear it, they won't say, I don't like country music, I don't like R&B music. But once they have an opportunity to be exposed to it, it does wonderful things for them and to them. We are honoring their contribution and the different areas where they were involved, not as musicians necessarily, but as instructors, as producers, as songwriters, as educators.
This is very special to me. It's a validation. In my community, family is very important. And this is a family to me, North Carolina. So it's, hey man, you did a great job. So that's what it means. It's very rewarding, that, especially since I was not expecting it. I mean, I'm surrounded by superstars here, and I'm proud to be here.
What it's gonna mean to me? Oh, wow. I'm gonna say, man, that was all right. I wasn't too bad of a guy at all. I changed a lot of lives, and people were paying attention, even when I didn't think they were, and I'm so grateful. North Carolina has history, baby.
Thanks so much, Russ. You can learn more about the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame on our website at pbscharlotte.org. Well, please be sure to friend us on Facebook for a chance to win monthly prizes. And congratulations to last month's winner, Regina Hilbert of Waxhaw. This month, we're giving away Poldark Seasons 1 and 2, including behind-the-scenes bonus features, as well as the third book in Winston Graham's popular series. I'd also like to recognize these terrific teens from Independence High School who are in our studio today during the taping. Their teacher, Marie Matthews, and her journalism class was chosen as a PBS NewsHour student reporting lab. And our team here at PBS Charlotte are mentoring these awesome teens throughout this year. We'd love to have your group come for a studio tour too. You can find details on our website. Well, that does it for us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
A production of PBS Charlotte.